What up? Week one of many of these sit downs here. The idea is, I don't know if these will be their own individual episodes of the prep series. I don't know if these will be kept just for the documentary. We shall see. But the whole idea is once a week for me to sit down, reflect on where I'm at, how I'm feeling, just general thoughts and insights from the prep, and just kind of go over everything that's going on. So each week I'll sit down and answer 3 questions. Big shout out to my amazing friend Kat. She's one of the several people helping out with the documentary. And she gave me these questions to review once a week, sit down, talk through them. So shout out to her. Today is November 10th. So I have 1 week before training camp officially kicks off. That's why I felt like this would be a fantastic first time to sit down. And then there are other questions. I will not be answering all of them every time, but these questions I'll probably come back and visit like 2 or 3 more times before the actual event itself. But let's get into it. So question 1, how are you feeling mentally and what is your self-talk like? Mentally, I feel very, very good. The energy around this project is entirely different. Like the core energy is coming from an entirely different place than the other big efforts I've done previously. Before, there was definitely a core energy of I feel I still have something to prove to myself, to others, to the world, whatever the case may have been. Sometimes it was I don't feel I've proven that to myself that I can really get through anything. I can really battle discomfort at a high level. Sometimes it was I feel like people aren't seeing what I can do as an athlete, so I need to amp it up even more. And after doing the 100, that lack, whatever that was, wherever it was coming from, it was full. So this one truly is stemming from the core energy of I want to do something epic. I want to go on a grand adventure. I want it to be very physically challenging, and I want to do it with cool people. So the crew, the people that are helping with the documentary, I haven't announced it yet, but there will be an event on day 6. Anyone who shows up to that, I just want it to be a cool thing that people will remember. Yeah, mentally I feel fantastic. Like the energy around this feels so much more like a child playing out in the yard. It's just a passion project. It's something that I think is going to be very difficult, but just super cool to go through and put together. And the self-talk reflects that. My self-talk has been, for the most part, like there is no pressure. If I can't do it, I can't do it. No one's going to think less of me. My family's still going to love me. My friends will still love me. There's zero pressure around it. I think the biggest thing is last week I went and scoped out the entire course on the west side of the state. And there was definitely, when I saw how intense the terrain is for the first 2 days, there was some self-doubt, some negative self-talk just around, can I actually even do these first 2 days? Are my legs going to hold up? Are my knees going to hold up? Because it's all just steep, long, rolling hills. But again, I pretty quickly, I snapped back into, there's no pressure. And also, I have all day to cover that distance. My goal is to get it done in a certain amount of time. But even if I go past that time, I have all day to get it done. So my self-talk has been, I'd say, 96% positive, which is a pretty solid ratio in my book. And then how I've been feeling mentally, I've been feeling great. I'm excited. Now, again, it is November 10th. I haven't even started training camp. I'm very aware that I'm in the honeymoon phase of all of this. But as of right now, I feel fantastic mentally. I feel my self-talk and just the energy of how I'm approaching this feels entirely different than anything I've ever done. Moving on to question 2. How are you feeling physically? I feel good, man. I think there's a big difference between peak state and optimal state. Going back to my previous big efforts, I was aiming for peak state. When I wasn't in training camp, I felt kind of lost. Like I wasn't as good about training without the pursuit of an objective. And so I had these huge peaks and troughs of my athletic ability, my overall fitness, and just like my physique. You could tell very clearly I was either in a camp or I wasn't in a camp. And after the 100 miler, I knew it was going to be a while, if not forever, that I did something else that was this level of crazy. And so I wanted to just reconnect with that inner child joy of movement and fitness. And so I went into all these different modalities, playing in all these different sandboxes of like strength training and different modalities of cardio fitness and different types of mobility training and functional training and all these different things. And in doing that, I found this beautiful recipe of things that are super effective that get me to that optimal state, so a more sustainable, optimal level of fitness in a way that I enjoy the pursuit. I enjoy the practice of it, not just having to like grit my teeth and push towards this objective. And so physically I feel fantastic. Building the base has gone really smoothly the past month. I feel strong. I feel cardio fit. I feel ready. I mean, if I had to go out and do it right now, it would be a struggle bus and I'd probably fail miserably. But knowing that the training camp has been fairly well established and where I'm at right now, knowing that I can follow the process of the training camp, I feel fantastic. So physically feeling pretty dang good. Question 3. Is there any outside circumstance affecting you right now? I think every single week the answer is going to be yes to this. I would be so naive to think that once I get into training camp, life will just like give me a break across the board and be like, no, you go do this thing. We'll handle all the rest of it. No, life is still going to life just as life does. And so I've got Best Self the business. I've got my friends and family. In terms of responsibilities, I live about as responsibility free as one can. No significant other, no pets. I have one plant in the studio that needs to get watered once a week. Otherwise, I just got to keep me alive and well and make sure that the people I love know I love them and care about them and I'm here for them. But that being said, yeah, life still has its multifaceted, complexities, obligations, responsibilities. And especially with what I want Best Self to become, that inherently has a lot of uncertainty around it because the money that I make, I want to just keep funneling back into the growth of it. And so making sure that I'm living below my means, making sure that I'm still generating enough income to grow this and giving myself the time, space, and experiences I need to continue to grow this. So Best Self, I think, will always be an influence. I think I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing being with the people I love where they're at and what's going on, which I'm very fortunate right now that like my life is fairly smooth sailing. I have some people very close to me that is not the case, but reminding myself that I can be there for them and hold the space for them without necessarily allowing it to hinder me. I don't really know a good way to verbalize it, but it's the and mentality of I can show up for them, sympathize with them, be with them where they're at, and still bring the positive energy to my life and what's going on. And so I think right now that's probably where I'm at. So in terms of like mental occupancy, being there for people, and I don't consider that a burden at all. I consider that a blessing that I have that type of connection with the people in my life that they feel comfortable opening up to me about things, talking to me about things. So I consider that a huge blessing to have the opportunity to show up for people, but it takes up mental occupancy. So I would say in terms of just affecting the process, yeah, that probably plays a role. So yeah, there will always be something. And I think as training ramps up, as the layers of complexity ramp up for like, how are we putting together the doc? How are we putting together the crew? What is this process going to look like? What does the event look like on day 6? I think the more this ramps up and the things that I'm looking to do with Best Self beginning of 2025, as that starts ramping up, I think it's going to get more and more chaotic. I'm here for it. I'm ready for it. But yeah, the answer I can confidently say will always be yes to that. So those are the main 3 questions. Now, before I jump into the next ones, I am going to post this one. I don't know that I'm going to post these every week. That might get a bit repetitive. We'll see. We'll see how life goes. But if you're watching this and you've gotten to this point, if you have questions that you think should be added to the list of just like weekly reflections and recaps, I want to make this a group thing. I want to make this a cool, fun project. So if you have questions you think I should be asking, throw them in the comments, go on social media and send me your recommendations. But getting into the more kind of in-depth ones that, again, I'm only going to touch on a couple times. What are my concerns? I can think of 3. So at the very beginning where I'm at right now, and I'm very curious, future Trevor, to look back and see this and see how these unfold. But the first one would be overtraining. I am very, very good at pushing myself past what's comfortable and holding that, especially when it comes to training camps. But because of that, during the 100-mile prep, I ended up pushing it too hard and got a stress fracture in my foot 8 weeks before the 100-miler. So overtraining, concern, not yet. Something to be aware of, definitely. So concern might be a bit of a strong word at this point because I'm so far out. But that would be one thing that's on my radar. Another thing is definitely days 1 and 2. Just the amount of vertical change, both inclines and declines, the effect that'll have on my knees, the effect that'll have on my feet, making sure that my body is ready to take the impact of the downhills, that my legs are strong enough to push up the uphills and still have energy for 4 or 5 more days of good effort. That would be the second one. The third one really is just making sure that this experience is cool and fun and exciting for everybody involved. So the people helping with the documentary, the crew, the people who are involved on the back end, anyone who participates in the day 6 event. I think that would probably be the biggest concern is I know what it looks like to put the pieces in place and like pull something like this off. And there are a lot of pieces. There's a lot of people that are going to take time out of their lives to crew, to help put this together, to just show up and support. And so I want to be very mindful that given that this is a very selfish pursuit, I want to make sure that the people helping also have an experience that's worth their time and volunteering effort. So those would be, again, concern. I don't know if I'd put that label on it, but those are probably the big 3 that stick out in terms of we have to make sure to proactively be ready for those 3 things. Past injuries from events I've done before. I mean, I grew up playing sports, doing stupid stuff, climbing on everything that could be climbed, running around like a wild child. So I have a ton of injuries. Really, the only one that I'm maybe thinking about for this would be the stress fracture from the 100. So taking care of my feet, not overdoing it, which is very easy to do. It's very easy to let the magnitude of a 200-mile ultramarathon psych me out as I get closer and think, oh, I'm not pushing hard enough. I need to log more miles. I need to push the intensity. Trusting the process that I have in place right now and not letting myself get psyched out by, again, those inner demons, that mental battle. But the stress fracture, for sure. Otherwise, in terms of, I have a lot of injuries, but ones that will affect this directly, I think the stress fracture is probably the biggest one. And I'm not that worried about it, but we will see. What goes through your head as you train? For this one, it's just being present. Like again, I'm at that point now where the thoughts of like the Rocky mentality, grit through it, super intense. Something that put it really well was a guy named Alex Honnold. He was in the Big Free Solo documentary, but in a new documentary that came out, he talked about a conversation he had with his wife where he had a very probably to a whole other level. He's like top in the world at what he does. But he had the similar mentality of like dark soul, grit through it, super intense energy. And I guess his wife, who's much more happy-go-lucky, brought up, what if you still did all the same things, but were just happy? And I think that is the switch that I'm making for this. So I'm just, again, I'm not naive enough to think that every time I show up for training, I'm going to love every second of it and I'm going to feel like sunshine and rainbows all the time. but I want to be very present, and I just want to enjoy the process of all of it. And we'll see how well I do that. Again, I'm curious to look back at these and see. But so the past month, what's been going through my head is just feeling good about the fact that the origin I'm starting from going into this training camp far exceeds my fitness level from any other training camp I've started out at. So that feels fantastic, and I've just been having fun. I've just been enjoying it. So yeah, probably not much to that. But I'm very curious to see how that answer changes in 2 months. What do I miss or feel like I'm missing out on in terms of like nutrition, hanging out with people, etc.? Nutrition is actually, this is a good time to be talking about this one. My nutrition, I've definitely started buckling down on a lot more in the past couple weeks. And I feel like the first couple weeks of cutting things out, I get it, like last night is a great example. My roommate and I went to a Halloween party. I know it was November 9th. Who cares? It was a great Halloween party. And we come back and I just got this intense wave of like, I want to eat pizza. I want to eat cookies. I want to eat anything that is not good for me. I want to eat it. And I feel like the first few weeks of getting that stuff flushed out of the system is always probably the toughest. There are still going to be cravings here or there, and again, I think nutritionally that answer will probably ebb and flow throughout the process. But that's probably the biggest one right now is the cravings are strongest because like my body just wants that stuff because it's used to being able to get it more consistently. So nutrition right now, probably the cravings, but also I love this feeling of really ramping up the clean eating and the effect of like daily energy, sleep quality, just the look of like inflammation in the body going down. There's so many benefits, like so many pros that the cons are just like feathers compared to blocks. So otherwise, right now I'm not missing anything. Recovery, sleep, I've been starting to get back to consistent. Usually I'm really good about sleep. For probably about a 2 or 3 month stretch, I was all over the place and I felt the effects of that for sure. But I used to get up a lot earlier. Now I've found a good like be in bed by 9:30, up at 6 is like the perfect kind of routine for me. Again, food, already talked about that. Mobility, rolling, stretching. I've done a good job of that Sundays. So like today, I usually spend a lot more time in recovery. So if anything, I'll go for a walk, but like Sundays for me are a lot of stretching, foam rolling, band work, like rolling out the feet, sauna, all of that kind of stuff. And then pretty much every single day, I'm doing some type of like hip stretches, lower body stretch, like full, I don't know why I'm saying lower body, full body mobility, stretching, recovery. So I've been doing really, really well with that stuff. Maybe I'll post like a video on my Sunday routine as I get into it. But yeah, recovery's been pretty solid. These answers are probably so boring because I'm at the beginning of this, but I just want to like start logging this stuff. What it's like to train for this while also having a job and needing to show up for people. I think I fully covered that, but yeah, I think it's very easy to think about it like a burden, but it's so not. When you have people that you love in your life that are inspiring people that you can be your just true, authentic self around and love and show up for and be there for, and they'll be there for you, like that's a huge blessing. And I fully recognize that. I have an abundance of that in my life. I am very grateful for that. And in terms of like having a job, again, same thing with Best Self. With all the uncertainty, I know that when I'm in too much of a routine job, I go ballistically crazy out of boredom. So I'll take the uncertainty any day, just knowing that I'm doing what I love. I'm doing my best to make a positive impact on the people I get a chance to influence and make an impact on. So I like that question, but right now I don't at all see any type of burden. It's all a blessing. I love all of it. How do you keep your mindset right? What is your routine like? I'm very big on, again, Sundays are kind of my like reset day. I think about it like in school when we had the smart board, every once in a while you had to like recalibrate it. Sundays are that for me. So Sundays are all about just thinking about like what's my intentions for the week coming up, like in terms of, I think of success and fulfillment. So to have success in each area, like what are the tasks that have to be checked off? In terms of fulfillment, how do I make sure that I'm feeling like not just doing the right things, but bringing the right energy, the right level of presence to all of those things. And so for me, typically that looks like some type of meditation every morning. I've been pretty inconsistent with journaling, but when I journal, I feel best. I just like the idea of logging my history, my thoughts. And I think it's very therapeutic to just word vomit for 20 minutes and let things flow. Yeah, a lot of that is pretty seamless and effortless right now. I think that's the benefit of building routines and like systematically introducing new good habits is if you try to just like completely switch up your life all in one go, it can be a huge hit to the ego in terms of like your sense of self because it gets completely shaken on every level. But also it's way harder to go from like not knowing how to juggle to juggling 7 balls at once. Instead, it's like, okay, throw up one ball and catch it. Throw up one ball and catch it. When you get so good at that it's boring, now introduce the next one. I've systematically introduced a lot of habits into my life that have made that a lot easier. But that's again why I love the challenge of training camps, is because now it just ups the ante and it makes me have to be so much more intentional about that stuff. So mindset's good. Routine is actually one of the reasons I'm in studio today, is take the day, go over the week, start looking at like what do I need to start implementing in terms of routine. So I'll probably have a way better answer for that in the next segment of this, but that's what I got right now. What drives you and motivates you when you're at your lowest point while running or training? I'm going to take out the while running or training. Like what drives me and motivates me? Just the fact that I picture, and this is going to sound so dark, but I promise you I don't think about it in a dark way. I picture a gravestone, and all it is like your name, the year you were born, a little dash, and the year you die. And it's so easy for life to be this bland book that no one would want to read. And so what drives me, there's the selfish and selfless component. The selfish component is I'm the one who has to experience Trevor. I'm with Trevor 24/7, 365. And so I want it to be like a book or a movie that is super cool to read or super cool to watch. Like, I think it was Joe Rogan who said in an interview, like, are you actually the hero in your story? Are you the main character? And there are inevitably times where I'm not. I think that will happen. Maybe that is just me copping out and justifying, but I think there will always be days where you just kind of don't feel like it. You need to recover, you need to unplug, whatever. But overall, I want to live a very cool story. Like I want to experience the excitement of life. I want to experience the adventure of life. And that doesn't happen without effort, intentionality, and all of the other things that you have to put in to receive that from life. So that's a big driver. And then the other piece too is I really want to inspire people. I want to impact people. I named my company Best Self not because I am delusional enough to believe that I'm the messiah of showing everyone the perfect life, but because I want to build a community of people that are intentional about the pursuit of living the best life they can as the best version of themselves as they can be and continue to evolve into. And that's, I mean, you could probably even hear it just from my voice. Like that to me, the juice will be infinitely worth the squeeze in that regard. There is nothing, in my opinion, that is more important than making sure that as many people as possible can live the best life possible and become the best version possible of themselves. That amps me up and it gets me just so passionate about doing everything I can to both learn the skills to help other people define that and go after it for themselves, but also try my best to be an example of like, I'm not saying that you have to go run 200 miles to cultivate that in your life, but for me and how I'm wired in the life that I believe will be badass and super exciting. This is the stuff that fills me up, lights me up, and gets me in tuned and aligned with that best version of who I am. And so, yeah, that's what drives me. Live a very cool, exciting story, become the best version of myself I can, and inspire, educate, do what I can to help as many people as possible do that for themselves. Ooh, and then the last question is definitely the best. Why are you doing this? Obviously everything I just said before, but I'm doing this because I want to show people that you don't just have to go through the mundane nature of the easy life. The easy life being you just show up, do the minimum, like at work, do the minimum to not get fired. Health-wise, do the minimum to not die. I'm doing this because I know I need it to live an extraordinary life on my terms. And I really hope that what we can squeeze out of this experience in the documentary is to inspire somebody, even if it's just one person. I hope it's a lot more than that, but to inspire somebody else to go after your dream life and understand that it's not easy. It's not something you can just affirm and it'll show up. You have to put in a lot of work. You have to develop the skills. But if you're intentional, if you're proactive, if you're present, and you do the right things the right way for a long enough period of time, consistently, you can have such a beautiful experience on this earth as who you are. And so that's my goal. That's my goal. That's it for this one. That went way longer than I was expecting it to. Again, if you've gotten to this point and you have questions that you'd want me to answer throughout this process, if there are videos that you want me to make throughout this process, definitely let me know. Throw them in the comments, reach out to me privately on social media. But the idea is once a week, I'm going to sit down and do this. Maybe you'll get a video on it every week. Maybe we'll keep this kind of close to the vest and put stuff in the documentary. I have no idea, but please, please, please let me know. I want this to be a collaborative effort. I want this to be a cool project for everybody, but I'm going to leave it at that because this is actually a really long video. So maybe I'll see you doing this again next week. Maybe I won't, but stay tuned. This is going to be an epic adventure and I can't wait to show everybody. Peace out.